5 years ago, my love for Julian was widely known, yet he personally sent me to prison. 5 years later, I was released from prison. My lack of love for Julian was doubted by all, who regarded me with suspicion and wounded me with rumors, to which I responded with silence. However, I later found a new interest in nurturing a little milk dog, a naive, handsome, sweet-talking young man with well-defined abs, yet Julian clung to me relentlessly. Upon my release, I retrieved my phone from a drawer, powered it on, and a photo of Julian and me appeared. On my 18th birthday, Grandma Lou gifted me the Lou family heirloom, a jade bracelet symbolizing the family's daughter-in-law, which I adored instantly, joyfully dragging Julian for a photo, though he reprimanded my immaturity, noting its significance as his grandparents' love token, leaving me beaming in the picture while he remained cold and visibly exasperated. I removed the screensaver, only to be confronted by dozens of messages: a toad craving swan meat, too shameless to look in the mirror, daring to steal Renee the superstar's man, you should have been locked up longer to spare others harm, and people like you deserve a lifetime in prison. Observing the barrage of malicious, threatening texts, I remained indifferent and refrained from opening further messages. The album contained old photos of us, me once youthful and radiant, him sunny and handsome, but now each image suffocated me. I deleted them one by one until my hands grew numb from the sheer volume. With a loud bang, I smashed it, and minutes later, urgent knocks sounded at the door, revealing my mother, elegantly dressed in a cheongsam, hair neatly pinned, still graceful and charming. She glanced at the scattered fragments, her expression shifting subtly as she circled me, inspecting closely, asking with concern, "Lena, what's wrong?" followed by, "Oh, it's just the phone breaking. I thought you'd fallen, good that you're unharmed," as if that sufficed. During my 5 years inside, she never inquired about hunger, cold, bullying, or my countless fearful nights. Couldn't she see my sunken eyes, sallow skin, and emaciated frame, ravaged by torment, rendering her casual greeting a sharp wound of disappointment and cold despair? I stood numbly, silent, as she hesitated, eyes reddening, murmuring, "Mom, I missed you so much," and approached with open arms, which I evaded. I longed to ask, if she truly missed me, why hadn't she visited in years or come to fetch me upon release? Was this her so-called longing? She continued gently, her face awkward, "Mom had her own unavoidable difficulties greater than my 5 years of prison anguish or daily dread." I wondered bitterly, remaining silent in my desolation. Tears trickled from her eyes as she wiped them and left. Minutes later, arguments erupted downstairs. "It's your fault, we shouldn't have ignored her, and now she blames us," countered by, "Blame me? She erred, offended others, and dares to fault me," followed by, "We should have at least visited," amid rising sobs. A softer voice nearby advised, "Let's not dwell on the past," adding, "Keep an eye on her. Some people we can't afford to cross, alas." Yet back then, who schemed to push me toward him? I shut the door, silencing the outside. Over those years, constant torment inside left me anxious and unadjusted, plagued by nightmares and frequent awakenings, only daring to sleep at dawn and rising near noon to seek food downstairs. My mother was arranging flowers in the living room when the butler announced, "Madam, Julian and superstar Renee will wed on September 9th at Rose Manor. Here's the invitation." Holding a gold-embossed red invitation, the butler shrank like a scolded child upon seeing me. My mother's gaze sharpened, and I froze on the stairs. They'd held an engagement, yet 5 years later, no wedding, perhaps to force me to witness their bliss at Rose Manor in the West. An ironic twist, given how I, once infatuated, had seduced a drunken Julian into new experiences. Afterward, I pleaded, "Brother, Rose Manor is romantic when the roses bloom. Can our wedding be held there someday?" His eyes showed satisfaction but no reply. I pressed, "Brother, I want countless roses to witness our happiness." "Okay," calling him repeatedly. He grew visibly impatient, pulling me close and rolling atop me, urging, "Continue," as I whimpered, "Ah, brother," yet he never agreed. Now, his wedding to Renee at Rose Manor proclaimed his love to the world, and I descended the stairs numbly. Noticing my preoccupation, my mother hastily diverted, "Hungry? What do you want?" instructing the servant to prepare breakfast while hiding the invitation, her eyes flustered, fearing I'd recklessly chase Julian again or cling like inescapable glue. But that glue was toxic. I'd tried it once and been scarred all over. I was no longer that person and wouldn't repeat it. Taking breakfast, I turned upstairs, clearing my throat at the corner. "Mom, I'm stepping out," startling her as panic flickered in her eyes. The butler delivered a new phone, free of those hateful texts, though online, news of Julian and Renee's wedding was ubiquitous. Some kind souls unearthed my past deeds to contrast their profound love, even posting yacht incident photos from 5 years ago in comments, captioned "The fate of the wicked sidekick," adorned with a bloody skull. Comments escalated, uniformly condemning and cursing me. "Dare mess up again, and we'll lock you back in," "Lena's going mad with jealousy, that little pest, I'll kill you," assuming envy, unaware my heart was a dry well, devoid of ripples. Unexpectedly, that afternoon, I saw Julian while shopping with my mother for clothes at the mall. At the store entrance, my body numbed, legs trembled, and that suffocating pain returned, leaving me breathless. Over 5 years, every moment inside was relentless torment, plunging me into an abyss. Save for my left wrist, my skin withered and regrew, rotted repeatedly, new scars atop old, the shocking pain keeping me perpetually alert. Taking a deep breath, I severed the mental images and calmed myself. Why would a CEO like him visit a mall, especially such a small one requiring no personal inspection? He surely knew of my release, likely his mercy reducing my sentence from 10 years to 5, prompting an inward sneer. The mall manager greeted him, guiding him inside while signaling us to step aside. I retreated a few steps, head bowed. Sensing his departure, I sighed in relief and glanced back. Gray suit, tall and poised, truly Beijing's premier young master. "Lena, come see this dress." My mother pulled me into the store, once daily devising reasons for me to seek him out. Now, she tugged me to hide what was there to fear with me like this? "Mom, I don't like dresses," I said, leaving her stunned. Like how I once liked him, wearing pretty dresses, fluttering after him like a butterfly. Now, with these scars, I no longer did. Minutes later, that tall, dark gray figure re-entered, asking, "Aunt Sue, care for tea downstairs?" His gaze shifting to me, colder than a stranger's, utterly impassive. I stood still, avoiding his gaze, my mind flashing to past scenes of me bounding to him like a tail-wagging puppy, calling brother Julian fondly. Now, I was calm, as if he were a stranger. My mother smiled, politely declining, both aware it was mere courtesy. Then, "Aunt Sue, I'll go," he said, glancing at me once more before striding off. My eyes caught nearby accessories, clenching my fist, I called loudly, "Wait," alarming my mother as she grabbed me, while Julian paused, turning back. "Miss Lena, what is it?" he asked coolly, neither of us using familiar terms, our mutual chill palpable as I clenched my fist, saying, "I have something to return." "Lena, Julian's busy, don't bother him," my mother urged, pinching me painfully as I removed the bracelet from my left wrist, known to all as the Liu family heirloom. Inmates dared not touch it, fearing ruinous consequences, thus sparing my hand while the rest of me suffered. In a way, it saved me. I examined it closely before handing it over, saying, "Here, we're even now." Returning it truly severed our ties. He never acknowledged our bond, boyfriend? He gave me nothing, never took me anywhere, just me trailing him like a pest. Friends? Yet we crossed lines repeatedly. But those years inside taught me through pain that my belief in his love was a delusion, an unfeasible fantasy I couldn't force. I was done. His hand trembled, eyes complex, as if this wasn't his desire. My mother glanced at me with relief, saying, "Julian, take it, it's too precious for her clumsiness to ruin." He paused silently before accepting it, his touch as cold as he was. Julian left, and my mother sighed in relief, likely realizing I wouldn't pursue him anymore. I browsed the jewelry store again, intending to buy a bracelet to ease my left hand's unfamiliarity, my earlier actions perhaps slightly reassuring my mother, who went to the restroom alone. But then I saw Renee, fully disguised with sunglasses, swaying confidently like a victor. Rumors said she'd thrived in showbiz these past years. Her eyes were hidden, but her smirk was clear as she said, "Lena, you've finally settled down," though I had no intent to engage her. We'd always despised each other, more so now I wanted distance. Ignoring her didn't faze her as she stared, saying, "You've thinned a lot, clearly suffered. I hardly recognize you," eyeing me like a triumphant peacock, to which I chuckled, "Renee the star, I don't recognize you either." I regretted knowing any of them. Unfazed, she strutted off in her heels. Watching her retreat, I glanced at her legs during her 25th birthday on a yacht. She fell from the third deck, breaking them on a railing, fainting amid blood. On that third deck, she'd taunted me triumphantly, childhood friends? Now brother Julian's engaged to me, don't shamelessly play the mistress, Lena, what makes you think you can rival me? Suddenly, the railing she leaned on snapped, and she fell screaming. Terrified, I reached out, grasping only her hem. Looking down in horror, I saw her eerie, triumphant smile, her pre-fall whisper echoing, "You're finished." The crowd gasped as Julian rushed over, tenderly checking Renee with utmost concern. I pleaded, "Brother, it wasn't me, I didn't push her, she." "I saw her push her," someone claimed. I heard them argue. Lena, jealous of Renee's engagement to Julian, lashed out in rage. I insisted she fell accidentally, but none believed me. His glare was venomous. "Move," he shoved me hard, my unprepared stomach slamming into the cold, hard railing, engulfing me in agony as I clutched it and crumpled. Curses surrounded me as they followed the main figures, leaving me alone, curled in a corner, tears blurring my vision, physical pain worsening, yet eclipsed by heartache. Then he came. I thought he regretted it, came for me, but he was there to arrest me. Someone had reported it instantly, later revealed as Julian. I touched my stomach instinctively that night, racked by pain. He, unformed, must have hurt too. Hospitalized a month, I now feel abdominal throbs seeing children. Wearing my new bracelet, I stayed home obediently for a month, adapting to life outside, gaining some weight, my complexion improving. Seeing me well behaved, my parents half believed I'd cause no more trouble, offering a new live streaming company to occupy me. At the company was a little milk dog, tall, sweet-talking, calling me sister daily, serving tea and water, clinging like I once did to Julian. Keeping him near brought me joy. Like my past self, he was warm and vibrant, stirring faint ripples in my long, still heart. Yet fate tormented me again. I saw Julian at a private winery team building event, coincidentally with a Lou Group subsidiary, my partner's choice a mystery. In the private room, familiar faces wore awkward expressions, eyes averted, enemies on a narrow path. I stayed impassive and silent. Julian's tipsy brother, face flushed, eyed me, loudly proclaiming, "Julian and sister-in-law are a perfect match, lovers united, may you always be happy." Swaying, he raised his glass to toast Julian and Renee. Once, he'd warmly called me little sister-in-law, now easily naming another. Renee smiled, arm linked with Julian's, proudly saying, "Brother Julian and I faced hardships, we'll surely be happy. Join us at Rose Manor on September 9th for our wedding." Others chimed in with praise. "Julian and Miss Renee are a handsome pair, truly, they're a stunning sight together," her happiness palpable to all present. His brother glared at me fiercely. "I hope some people behave and cause no more trouble." Julian smiled faintly, his deep, complex gaze brushing me, as if anticipating something. Renee turned to me abruptly, "Miss Lena, don't you agree?" I met her eyes calmly, saying flatly, "Julian and Miss Renee are indeed a natural pair," chilling the air opposite. The little milk dog beside me grinned, consoling, "Sister Lena's beautiful and gentle, she'll surely be happy too, no need to envy others." Awaiting my reward, all fell silent as I patted his head as usual. "Sister Lena's so gentle and pretty." She peeled me another shrimp, he said, the room's atmosphere turning slightly awkward. He whispered, "Sister's the prettiest," his warm breath on my face, long lashes, brown hair, and deep voice stirring thoughts, while Julian's dark eyes across pierced like daggers. I pinched my palm. What was I thinking? His wife was right there, why fixate on me? I indulged the little milk dog more, gently pushing him with a warning glance. "Fine privately, but involving me today could be fatal." A glass slammed the table, silencing the room. My nervous partner wiped imaginary sweat, scolding, "Mind the occasion," then humbly to Julian, "He's had too much, forgive him." As Beijing's elite, any displeasure prompted apologies. "If he's drunk, sober him up," Julian directed, his guard swiftly removing him. None pleaded. Who dared offend? I felt pity, like my past helpless self. After all, he was my little milk dog, so I stood. "What? Can't part with him, Lena?" I blanked. "Part with my little milk dog?" My silence seemed evasive to him, his aura threatening a beating. I nodded. Irrelevant people weren't worth my time, I rushed to find my little milk dog, the only one who cared, unwilling to let him suffer my fate under Julian. Back then, as the police took me, blood pooled beneath me, sent to the hospital, he kindly called my dad, who dismissed, "She loves playing pitiful, don't be fooled, do what's needed." I signed for surgery myself, cold machines whirring inside me, digging and turning. He was gone. My parents didn't care, baffling me, their once pampered child. I stared at the ceiling, eyes whitening. Later, in prison, enduring 24-hour inhuman torment, nearly fainting daily from their beatings, pleading repeatedly. It hurts, I won't, I cried, met with worse abuse. The worst time, a kick to my stomach brought searing pain, as if tearing me apart. Rushed to the hospital, the doctor said my unhealed uterus, struck again, couldn't be saved, stripping me of motherhood. What had I done to deserve such divine punishment? My thoughts raced until noises from a dark alley drew me in. There, Renee with man leered wickedly. I sensed danger, tried to flee, but they seized me, muffling my cries. Renee approached, glaring fiercely. Still not learned? Forgot the beatings inside? Daring to provoke brother Julian again. He sent you in to appease me, promising tenfold retribution for any harm to me. Seeing me unmoved, she added, I faked a leg fracture, just scratches. Brother Julian, caring for me, ensured you were well tended, her sarcasm biting. Life inside was a living death, wasn't it? She smirked wickedly. More to come, then screamed, help, help, tearing her clothes, musing her hair, smearing lipstick to look assaulted. I looked up, dread surging. What's this? A shout rang out. The men fled as Renee, tearfully terrified, glanced at me. Brother Julian, save me, I nearly, before throwing herself into his arms. He gazed at her tenderly, her tears staining his white shirt. Once, when thugs harassed me, he'd scanned me coldly, scolding, why dress so flashy, inviting trouble? So, he wasn't always icy, just not with me. He lifted Renee, soothing, you've suffered, I'll make it right, go back now. Renee nodded sweetly, kissing Julian. Astonishingly, I saw disgust on his face as guards escorted her away behind me. He strode to me, choking me, eyes blazing. What? Avenging your little milk dog, his brow faintly creasing. Don't touch me. I struggled fiercely, desperate to never see or be tied to Julian again. Lena, you're despicable. He gripped my chin, forcing my gaze. What? Fallen for another? I broke free with all my strength, raging, if I like someone else, what's it to you? Who are you to me? What did you say? Stung by my words, his eyes flared, grip tightening. Past scenes flooded back, plunging me into despair. Please, let me go, I won't dare, I begged, and he released me. Trembling, I hugged my head. Don't hit me, as Julian's pupils shrank, embracing me tightly. Lena, what's wrong? He inhaled deeply. Don't scare me. He hadn't called me Lena since prison, and now it repulsed me. Lena, enough. Stop faking, he shouted, trembling. I was wrong. A guard nearby faltered. Miss Lena seems triggered, adding, Julian, she's showing post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. Julian stood by my bed, puzzled, as they explained, such patients, long subjected to violence, develop psychological stress, rambling, confusion, and hallucinations. Best not to provoke her further. We found Miss Lena endured prolonged extreme abuse, her body scarred. Leave now, he cut in. Sedated, I couldn't move but heard clearly. After the doctor left, someone cautiously lifted my clothes. I tensed, wanting to cover up, but my limp body wouldn't obey. A chill hit me as he gently traced my scars, hands shaking. My body bore deep and shallow marks, the worst a 10-centimeter abdominal gash. Tears fell, followed by sobs. Was he scared or pained? I'd endured it alone, in agony and terror, long ago. Didn't I say just lock her up and care for her well? Julian barked. A timid voice replied, care meant. Bastard, he cursed, offending Beijing's boss. They'd already sought to care for me, especially with orders given. They kicked my hair, beat me, forced me to eat spoiled food and drink toilet water, diligently caring as instructed, while management turned a blind eye. Hanging up, Julian called again. A child? Lena's child, mine? It's gone, then slapped himself repeatedly. I deserve to die, Did it hurt, Julian, killing your own child? Back then, it hurt so much. This scar reminds me constantly I was just 20, loving you, yet deserved such torment? Regretful tears fell. I was utterly repentant. Awakening, I shifted stiffly, seeing Julian's bloodshot eyes, exhaustion etched beneath, his face marked with red slap prints. He looked at me, voice hoarse. Lena, you're awake. Do you know how worried I was? Instinctively, I recoiled from his words. Mom claimed worry but ignored me 5 years. Julian claimed it too, yet sent me in. How ironic. All my sufferings thanks to you, and you say worry? I challenged. Julian frowned, pain flashing in his eyes. Lena, I only pushed lightly. I didn't expect this. The child, I stared, despair in my eyes. Don't mention it, you're unworthy, paling his face instantly. Lena, I was wrong, forgive me, he repeated, met by my icy stare, mirroring his past gaze, as he slapped himself again. I'd loved him so, yet he thrust me into hell. You sent me in. What right have you to beg forgiveness? I said, I know you never loved me. Panic crossed Julian. Lena, it's not true. I love you. What right have you to say love? Get out, I can't stand you. I hurled a cup. Miss, calm down. A nurse entered, soothing me. Julian paused at the door, then vanished. Belated affection, cheaper than grass. Julian left, and Renee arrived. Bitch, stay away from brother Julian, continuing as I stayed mute. Why come out better dead inside? I stared. So, you bribed the prison bully? She feigned innocence. Without you, brother Julian's mind. Why is it only you he sees? Lena, so smart, yet useless. 3 days till brother Julian and I wed, she chuckled, eyes mocking. Renee stepped close, eyes venomous. Lena, think I didn't know about your child? I arranged the surgery. Hurt, didn't it? Who knew you'd survive like a cockroach, so I had them treat you well. Now a barren wreck, haha. What right have you to vie for brother Julian? My fists clenched, nails digging in, body trembling. Renee, you, my voice shook, rage restrained. Why did you do this? Why, she sneered. Lena, who do you think you are? Look in the mirror. What makes you worthy of brother Julian? I seized her hair, yanking her close. Renee shrieked, unprepared for my retaliation. Crazy woman, fear flashing across her face. I slapped her hard, each blow laden with years of pent-up fury and pain, overpowering her with my height as her flailing proved futile. Lena, you bitch, let go, she yelled as the door burst open. My mother rushed in, stunned by our fight. Lena, what are you doing? Let go, she chided, prying my hand free as I released Renee's hair, and she tidied her up. Aunt Sue, see, Lena attacked me like a madwoman, Renee whimpered tearfully. My mother's face darkened, scolding. Lena, Renee kindly visited. How could you hit her? I sneered inwardly at her. Mom, back then, you pushed Miss Renee, bedridden her for half a year. She forgave and pleaded for you. Be grateful. She cut me off, glaring angrily. Renee wiped crocodile tears, smirking occasionally. I inhaled deeply, knowing explanations were futile. She wouldn't listen and stayed silent. My mother tugged me, apologized to Miss Renee now, but Renee simpered. Aunt Sue, Lena's young and immature. It's fine, her words dripping with pretense. Seeing me still, she frowned. Miss Renee, truly a refined lady unlike her, 5 years inside and still unrefined, adding, congratulations, your wedding's in 3 days. You and Julian are a perfect, well-matched pair. Flattered by my mother, Renee's smile returned, victorious as she left. My mother, ever currying favor, once pushing me to please Julian, now Renee never cared for me, her daughter. Julian entered with a thermos, setting breakfast before me and washing my hands. My mother watched nervously. Julian, let me. Aunt Sue, did you visit Lena these 5 years? How was she? I kept my head down, accepting Julian's feeding like a docile kitten. I used to feed him strawberry tips. He'd scowl, don't bother me. Now, I tasted this roll, finding it bland and unpalatable. My mother gaped, lips hesitating, face paling before finding an excuse to leave. For 2 days, Julian stayed close, even forcing me to sleep in his arms. I kicked him off. His embrace was warm, yet offered no peace. On the 3rd morning, he rose early, shaving meticulously, donning a black suit and red tie, exuding festivity. I watched silently. Yes, his wedding day. I shouldn't cling, these days a dream. he hugged me, whispering, "Wait for me." He assigned a little assistant to me. I was glad, free of him. My phone returned too. I eagerly opened it. 108 messages from my little milk dog. I smiled foolishly, reading, "Sister Lena, when are you back to work? I miss you. Why not here? I brought you fruit, sister, I'm worried." Reply. Each warmed my heart, easing worry. "He was fine," I replied, "don't worry, I'm okay." Seeing my mood, the assistant approached, grinning, "Guess what? Julian's desk and home are full of your photos, even his wallet. I often catch him staring at them. He loves you so much." I scoffed. "Love me? Sent me to prison for 5 years?" She rushed. Julian had reasons back then. From her fragments, the yacht's birthday party had broken surveillance from renovations. Renee, near death, her parents pressed Julian for a life. "Julian sent you in to protect you. He called monthly to ensure your care. I delivered things each month. You got them, right?" I recalled monthly deliveries of food and clothes to those bullies who'd mock, "Rich miss." Unseen, like an abandoned dog. That day each month, I was beaten worst. "Sister Lena, you lost freedom inside, but better than your life to stop the family's revenge." Julian feigned with Renee. "She never touched him." She winked playfully. "Don't worry, I've watched for you. Your praise kept me at Lou Corporation." I breathed deeply. Even if not his doing, my pain was real. I hated him. He wasn't blameless. "Stop with the trivia. He's marrying today," I said. She began, "Julian just," but I turned, covered up, and closed my eyes, silencing her wisely. Waking later, the assistant gone, guards outside barred exit, my phone buzzed with news. An heiress crashes on wedding day, legs broken, with a photo of Renee sobbing, face enlarged, limbs mangled. Real fractures this time, a slight joy within, evil repaid. Then, the assistant and nurse entered, the former smiling. After an injection and instructions, the nurse left, the assistant shutting the door, hesitant. I smiled. "Speak, what's making you happy?" She giggled shyly. "Miss Renee crashed. I knew Julian wouldn't marry her." Two-faced, a true actress, she covered her mouth playfully. "Family resources made her a star. She's nowhere near you, Sister Lena." Like a chirping bird, she ranted about Renee's fakeness until Julian entered. She left, closing the door. He'd changed suits, red tie gone. Morning's gloom lifted, joy evident. "Lena, the doctor says you're discharged. Let's go home." Puzzled. "Renee hospitalized, yet he's here, not with her?" "I'll go alone," I said, slipping on shoes and leaving. Julian grabbed me forcibly, unable to break free. I bit him, tasting rust before letting go. His hand bore deep teeth marks, blood stark. "Get lost. Why not with your bride? You sicken me. Don't touch me." I laughed, tears streaming. "Sorry," he rasped, repentant. I felt lifeless as he hugged me. Forgive me," trembling. He took me to Rose Manor, carrying me into a red, festive room. His and Renee's bridal chamber. I glared. "What? A tour?" "No, I prepared it specially, back then." I cut him off. "Don't mention then. I bought Rose Manor. It's our home now." He tried fitting the jade bracelet on me, blocked by my current one, failing despite retries. "Don't force it," I withdrew. "I no longer love you, no room for you." He tore at my clothes, kissing my scars repeatedly. Those marks, deep and shallow, I never dared examine, constant reminders of past hurt. He caressed the worst tenderly, breath warm on my abdomen. "Let's have a child." I shoved him off, scoffing. "A child? You disgust me. Knowing I can't bear one, you mock me." His face paled, features twisting. "I didn't think this saddens me?" I went on. "You're irrelevant. Don't flatter yourself." "You're right, I am," he said, self-mocking. Yet I won't let go, choking me with his words. My hands unconsciously gripped the sheets. "I know I hurt you deeply." He looked up, eyes pained, meeting mine. "Stop." I breathed deeply, voice calm and firm. "Julian, your harm can't be undone with mere apologies." "Lena, forgive me. I'll prove it with actions." That night, I slept on the bed, he on the floor. Next day, a video leaked online. Renee arrogantly humiliating me, then feigning victimhood, going viral instantly. I blinding, a true bitch. Wow, acting's pioneer. Insiders revealed her past fractures were fake. Opinion shifted. I was no longer blamed. Renee fell, banned, the in-group crashed with debt, her parents fled, leaving it to her later, debt collectors ruined her, and she was gone. I settled at Rose Manor, rejecting my parents' pleas to return, occasionally chatting with my little milk dog. Julian lived there too, whipping himself daily to feel my pain, scarring himself until skin cancer struck. I felt nothing.